Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregivers Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassasney.
From Los Angeles and the Big Apple in Los Angeles, big LA and New York welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, coming to you live on caregiverdave.com and Facebook Live, 24/7, on demand, 15 now, global audio and video platforms, YouTube, iTunes, Spreaker, and a whole bunch more. And we also at caregiverdave.com, voted number 2 of the top 6 best caregiving podcasts of 2017. I'm sure we'll make that in 2018 as well. We might even make number 1.
Well, I want to make number 1.
Yes, number 2 always tries harder, and we probably won't find out till January or so when the official ballots come in. Unlike the ballots in Florida, I'm sure they know how to count. Oh, did I just say that out loud? We have an exciting interview planned for you today with my lovely co-host and founder of the Caregiver Space, Ardienne Gruberg. Say hello, Ardienne.
Hello.
I sound like George Burns every time I do that.
Hello, Gracie. Hello, Gracie.
Yes, about half of the audience don't even know who Gracie is, but that's okay.
I know.
It's so sad. Anyway, we will be interviewing today Eldercare Coach, author, and speaker Carol Ann Hamilton. No relation to the play Hamilton. I don't think she gets the money from that or anything like that. So before we get started, I want to take this moment to thank my last week's guest, former caregiver Katrina Garcia. She's the CEO, founder of KG Website Design, and has been a business owner for over 12 years. The first 5 years she worked to build her. Well, that's all I'm going to tell you. You'll have to watch it to learn the rest. And you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews, including this one, at our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of those many other networks and platforms that I mentioned, iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio. You know. All right, enough of that. Welcome to my guest, Carol Ann. And I feel so warm and fuzzy when I interview you because I have a cousin, Carol Ann. She lives in Nashville, and I miss her so much. We don't get to see each other very often, but we were very close, and when we get together, we're close again. So tell us in about a minute or so, just who is Carol Ann Hamilton and why was she put on this earth?
Well, goodness gracious, I rarely meet another Carol Ann from Nashville or from Toronto where I'm speaking with you and Ardienne, and it is such an exciting pleasure to be with you and all your valued listeners today. And so, who is Carol Ann? Well, you know what? We're just going to dive into kind of my background, but I want to share transparently because I think it's important that people know that I am an only child of a mother who battled a father who battled alcoholism, and a mother who dealt with paranoid schizophrenia, because it really does inform my story that I look forward to sharing with all of you today. And so fast forward when I became involved in their care, as they aged as an only child. And I did not greet that chapter of life with anything close to a welcome, but instead with dread, resentment, and bitterness. And I sort of backed into doing this work in the world because I was responsible for them. And I learned a whole bunch of things along the way that did not match up necessarily to my career, which was in Fortune 500 organizations as a leadership development expert and a change management and performance coach. But here I am today, sharing with all of you, and so delighted to be doing so.
And we are delighted to have you, and you're just so nice. I mean, we have a lot of guests on this show, but you're just extra nice. Isn't she nice, Ardienne?
Yes.
She has such...
both of you to speak up a little.
Oh, sorry about that. Is that better?
That's okay. Yes.
Is that better, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Both of us need to speak up. Thank you, Ardienne. And she's just so nice. She has so wonderful manners. You must have had a wonderful mother to teach you how to have such manners and be so nice, yes?
Despite the challenges that I experienced with my mom, you are intuitively correct. You channeled that, Dave. And she is the one who actually taught me to always write thank you notes to aunts and uncles when they gave me cards and gifts. Right. And so I thank her for that graciousness to this day. Yes.
I knew it. Well, thank you, Mom, whatever her name is. What is her name?
Anne.
Anne, what a nice name.
She's no longer with us, but Anne.
Well, we'll be talking about her, I'm sure.
Yep.
So share with us, Carol Ann. I just love saying that name, Carol Ann. Because a lot of people don't use their middle name. Is that your middle name, or is that just your first name?
No, it's actually my full first name, Carol Ann. My dad was a school teacher and principal for a bunch of years, and how my name came to be, you can figure out the Ann, but the Carol was because he had a favorite student in one of his classes named Carol, and so there I go. But my middle name is actually Patricia. And I love Patricia too. I've often thought about changing to Patricia, but at the age of 60, it would take a lot of people a lot of time to get used to Patricia all of a sudden. But I like the qualities of nobility and grace that the name denotes.
It's true. At 68, Bruce Jenner changed his name to Caitlyn Jenner, and people are still calling him Bruce. So, it's hard to remember. I'm sorry.
Never too late.
Bad joke. I just can't help myself. Ardienne, you're supposed to control me here.
I'm supposed to control you?
At least on the air. Okay. Enough of that. Share with us how you came to be doing your work in the world as an elder care coach. I don't think I've ever met an elder care coach before. Have you, Ardienne?
No, I have not.
Well, this is another first. A lot of firsts today.
Yep.
There you go. In fact, you might have come across Caregiver Coach, though. Hello, Dave,
probably.
The Caregivers. Caregiver.
I have definitely come across him.
Yes, the caregiving space, Ardienne. Hello.
Right.
So, and it was just an early term that I coined because probably about, I don't know, for me, 5 or 6 years ago, when I became involved in this field heavily, I didn't actually know a whole lot of people like you both. And so I'm now heartened that I do. But at the time, coming out of my corporate career after about 25 or 30 years, which of course I started when I was aged 5, I really did not know much about this space, except that bunch of attitudes and skills and actions were called for to contend with my folks as they rapidly aged. And again, because I did not know a lot of people who were in this realm, maybe they were there, but I just didn't know, I felt like I coined the term to in fact describe what I now do with people, which is to especially help those who are dealing with difficult aging parent issues to contend with this chapter of life.
Awesome. So along the way, you coined some unique terms, like in the form of uncopable. I don't know if that's in the dictionary or not, but
it doesn't matter.
It should be in the dictionary. Parents and uncopable. Oh, they're uncopable symptoms, right? What does all that stuff mean?
Well, that's a first, too. Talking about firsts on today's show, right? Yep. So that one was sort of brought to me in working with a mentor. But, I was all about helping people to deal with impossible aging parents, which I would define my mother and father to be. So how do you cope with uncopable parents? And I discovered some signs and signals that would tell you that you were dealing with somebody who was pretty difficult. Like you put my dad on a scale of stubborn, 1 to 100, and he was about a 500 plus. So I think that gives you like a little idea. And I especially think that my background in my family of origin equipped me to kind of help those who don't just deal with, cooperative, pleasant, nice parents who, when you say to them, hey, mom or dad, it's time to get into the retirement community, and they go, oh yeah, that's a really great idea, let's do that and let's plan for it, right?
People
that was the opposite.
Do you really know people who are eager to go?
Only the smart ones.
Some, but few, Adrienne.
Few,
yes.
Yeah.
You can count them.
It does take a little convincing sometimes.
You can count them on one of your fingers there.
I know, like that.
Which one of your parents was schizophrenic?
Mom.
Mother. And did it worsen as she aged?
That's interesting. Funny enough, there came a day, this was all around 1984, and I remember getting a call from my dad at work, and he was saying, we're thinking about having Mom undertake, what's that? I'm thinking about, I can't find the term, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where they do kind of procedures. And I was thinking the movie, and I went, you're thinking of doing that with Mom? After she's been through psychiatrists and drugs and stuff like that. Yeah, we are. And darned if that didn't actually adjust something in her. So much as I do say with all of you today that my dad battled alcoholism and Mom with her paranoid schizophrenia, both of them, they paralleled because they were in some kind of weird contract with each other. And so both had their issues at the same time, and both kind of resolved some stuff. So there was actually a period, in all fairness, when things were pretty peaceful. And my husband and I were thankful for that period. But then it started to go downhill as they aged, of course.
Well, wait a minute. Let me just interrupt you for a moment. Did I hear it wrong? Did you say you actually did give them a lobotomy?
Well, whatever that procedure, it's not a lobotomy, but it was something else.
Electroshock.
Yes, thank you, Adrienne. Yes, that's
there's something new out right now that is really cutting edge. I met a guy, Dr. Antoine Chevalier from Washington, D.C. He actually works at the White House in the mental health department. And they have something called acupuncture for the brain. It's electronic stimulation. They take a brain scan and look for the dark spots, and they stimulate that. And he has been having amazing results. He's got a video testimony from who's the guy on Jaws? Richard Dreyfuss. His entire family had treatments from him, and he's just swearing up and down. He does traumatic brain injuries for football players. So
interesting.
There's something about giving the body or the brain electricity that seems to be helpful. Right? We're back to like Frankenstein. Okay. But that's very, who knows? We don't understand this brain thing. So go on. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Well, and so that's really how I came to it, right? I will not claim to have a background in geriatrics or anything like that. It was just that I started to figure out, wait a minute, your coaching work that you do with corporations may actually help you with some of the communication skills and other things that were needed to deal with, again, a very difficult father and mother. So there you go.
Wow. That's amazing. So when did neither one of them are still alive, or just one of them, or?
No, both have passed away. Mom in 2010, Dad in 2012.
So you've had some time to just heal and gather your thoughts and just get it all together, find out why you went through everything you went through and what you learned, and now you're giving back, right?
Yes. I am a woman on a mission. Because if I can,
WOM.
My nickname amongst friends is Warrior Woman, amongst others. And if I can just save one caregiver, action, anguish that I went through during what was unequivocally the most difficult chapter of my life, even beyond growing up in that environment, my work will be done. Because did I just say with both of you and everyone listening that you found, Carol Ann, in your 50s, going through this chapter of life, more challenging than you did being a teenager and you know, a young woman at the height of things with your folks?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Well, how would someone like me, well, my parents aren't around anymore, but if they were, or someone listening on Facebook Live, how would they know if their mom or dad fits your description of an impossible aging parent? Seems like a silly question, but go ahead.
Well, you know, first off, before I read you a few questions from one of my books, if I may, already, if they even understand the term uncopable before hearing how I might define it, then probably they are somebody that has impossible aging parents, because they're saying to themselves, oh, yeah, when she said 500% plus stubborn, do you have a number rating for Carol Ann, like 1,000% stubborn or something like that? Because that's my parents, so can you still help me? And I mean, really, I'm just going to give you a few questions. If anybody here has their eyeballs roll into the farthest reaches of their heads at the mere thought of their parents, yeah, they're probably unculpable. You know, what's that redneck thing? If you are this, or this, you're probably a redneck. Well, I mean, if you have to spend hours psyching yourself up while getting ready to be in their presence, probably you find them a little challenging, to say the least. Or you want to tear out your hair strand by strand before, during, and after you've been together with them, probably you're dealing with an unculpable. And
I'm assuming they weren't living with you.
No, they weren't.
Lucky you.
By both of our choices.
Yes.
Because my husband and I, and my parents, I mean, my mom passed away, so she was more cooperative out of the two, but she passed away, you know, and so we were left with my dad. But neither my dad would have wanted to be with us, too, because this is a man that kind of said back in 1963, just to date myself, that I was probably 5 at the time, where he would say he wanted to be carted out of the house in which I grew up in the back of a hearse.
Yep.
Now, he left it in the back of an ambulance, but this tells you somebody that did not want to live with his child nor son-in-law, and who really wanted to maintain his independence to the end. And that also is kind of an unculpable, because they want things their way, and you don't feel like you can prevail with them at all.
And did they have anyone helping them at all?
You know, this is the irony, Ardienne, because my mom, with progressive physical ailments too, did have a caregiver who came into the home several times a day over about a year to 2 when she was going downhill.
Yes.
And so my dad was used to having Alicia in the house. And so you would think that when he started to slide a bit, he might have been open to her or other services from the agency, but that was not the case for him. But yes, she was a godsend to us and to him, in fact.
But he would have none of it.
None of it. Nope. Nope. It's not exclusive to daughters, because I actually know a lot of sons who get involved in the caregiving of aging parents. Everybody thinks it's the daughter or a nominated sibling, and I listened to a few of your recent shows and you know, looked up what you both are up to in the world. And I know that you've had guests who've said it really is often the daughter or the responsible one, shall we say. Well, when you're an only, who else is there really to turn to?
Yeah.
But in this case, I actually know many sons who suffer some of the very same trials as did I. Yeah, so no, he would have none of it.
You can tell that she's a radio host, Adrienne, because she did her homework. She looked up and listened to the shows, and so good for you. Listen, we're going to take a break, so don't go away. A short break, and we'll be right back with Carol Ann Hamilton and Ardienne Gruberg.
Welcome, caregivers. Thank you so much for finding your way to our community of loving and supportive caregivers. We as caregivers understand and know the day-to-day feelings of guilt, fear, and loneliness. But guess what? There is hope. I, Dave the Caregiver's caregiver, along with my team of experts and caring caregivers, have made this site just for you. We are a community of caregivers that understands and supports you wherever you are in your journey. We are a place to connect with other caregivers, but more importantly, a place to get practical, actionable help. There are lots of ways for you to get support. First of all, you can download our welcome pack. This will get you started on your Thrive journey. Next, you can ask and get answers to your questions by posting them here in our private Facebook groups. You can also get live online support by attending one of our live weekly Connect webinars. You can get practical, actionable advice by listening to our weekly podcast. You can hear and read other stories about other caregivers' experiences. Plus, add your own in our weekly Share Your Story forum, posted every Tuesday in the Facebook group. You can access essential resources and download practical Thrive Solutions packs, all of which are geared to help you thrive as a caregiver. We know funds are tight, so we offer all of our individual Thrive Solutions packs, or for even a better deal, you can get lifetime access to all of our resources. Again, we're here to support you and help you thrive and to enjoy your life as a caregiver. And remember, this is a place to get hope, not just cope.
David Nassasney.
Best-selling author Dave Nassasney.
Dave Nassasney is a best-selling author.
Mr. Dave Nassasney.
Thank you.
So you're needed.
I am needed.
You are very much needed.
The woman I loved had suffered a massive stroke. They tell you in the event of an emergency, oxygen mask will drop. Put your mask on first before you help your loved one with their mask. For the next 2 years, our lives had become a living hell.
Everyone has one of these. It's called a cell phone. You turn it on, you punch in your number. Hello, Mom. I need help. Grandma's driving me crazy. I realize there are so many other caregivers out there who are hurting and feeling lost and alone. And I didn't want them to hurt anymore.
So now I host a popular iTunes podcast, the Caregivers Caregiver Radio Show. And I even shared the stage with Suzanne Summers at Harvard. Come and join our community of caregivers. Let us love on you. Let us support you.
Dave is an amazing man. I was in tears when I heard his story.
Dave is really my idol because he created something for caretakers. And I was a caretaker for my father.
Every caregiver's life is a love story. Let me help you make that love story one of hope and triumph. Thank you very much.
And we're back with Carol Ann Hamilton and Ardienne Gruberg. And we have someone who's been commenting on our Facebook Live, Rose, and I encouraged her to call in and talk a little bit. She's talking about her parents are both deceased, but she has no regrets, but they were a challenge. What parents aren't, right? So that was very interesting. So let's go on to the next question. Can't I just tell my parents what to do, given that I know what's best for my folks? Right? How's that been working out for you?
That is precisely where I would start. Yeah, you go ahead and try that. And I have already saved you a lot of time and grief by trying out an A to Z of what does not work. So how about we try something that does work? And I know you know, seriously, I know you know what is best for them. However, this is no small matter of just telling, but influencing, and persuading. And if we had a child on this call right now and we asked them, how do you eat an elephant? Bet you they would answer, one bite at a time. Not that I am likening aging parents necessarily to children, although there are some remarkable similarities between an entitled 80s and a terrible 2s temper tantrum. But on the other hand, anything that I achieved with my dad was accomplished one step at a time, one conversation at a time. Dave, you were saying a little while back where, okay, so it's been a while, so you've been kind of healing and recovering from it. Yeah, we'll comment on that later. But for now, I want to say that this was not, a matter of just miraculously finding solution. It was trial and error, experimentation, and mostly I failed. And
that's why support is so important, because we're learning off of other people's mistakes and their learning curve. And only a smart person would do that, but it's not that we're dumb, it's just we're ignorant. We don't know what we don't know.
We don't know, and that's why it's so great that you both do support groups and provide supports, because if I could roll back the clock, probably one of the things that I would do differently was to access or maybe research, really, first, other means by which I could get the support that I needed, too.
Yeah. So Rose has an interesting situation. I don't know if she's just too shy to call in or she doesn't know how, but she takes care of her sister with IDD. Not sure what IDD is. Do you guys know?
No.
Lewy body dementia, probably. Or maybe that's in addition to
IDD?
IDD, Lewy body dementia, Parkinson's, and neuropathy. I have very limited family help. Get this, even with, get ready for the number, 11 of us, kids, 11 siblings, probably 10 siblings, including plus herself. So she has a question. How does she calm her anxiety without meds? She watches and avoids the trigger points as best she can. There's no support groups in her local area. Where do you live? Like in the jungle somewhere? Because thank God for online support, and that's what I would recommend to someone who maybe lives somewhere. I can't even imagine. Maybe you're supposed to start a support group if you don't live one. Oh, IDD stands for Intellectual Developmental Disability. That sounds serious. So what's your, how can you help poor Rose over here? Oh, she lives in southern Illinois, but you would think there'd be something there. But if not, maybe you need to start something. I know you have all this time in the world to start a support group, but it doesn't take much, does it, Adrienne? Even if it could be online.
Groups.
Yeah, do an online group.
There must be meetups online.
And she has time to tune in to us, so she does have some time,
I would look up and see if there were any meetups at all where she could meet people, because I don't know if she can get out. That's the other question. But if you can't get out to do a face-to-face group, there are many online groups.
So anxiety, she talks about meds. Does antidepressants calm down anxiety? A lot of people are afraid of antidepressants because they think they're drugs and they don't want to do drugs. But, if there is a chemical imbalance in the brain, sometimes we just need to restore the balance. And I know my wife is on them. She had a stroke 22 years ago. And when she runs out of her prescription, she just becomes a little more irritable. There's just a little more edge on life. And I can tell.
How do you let her run out of prescription?
It's not my fault. It's always the doctor's fault or the pharmacist's fault, and they always blame each other. Well, I sent the fax. Well, I don't have the fax, but I sent it. Well, send it again. And it's like a circus. It happens every single time. So we try in advance. Oh, no, this is too soon to refill. Call us back later. Well, when I call you back, okay, don't get me started on that.
Okay.
So, Carol Ann, let's talk about meds, anxiety, and antidepressants, and the plus and the minuses.
Well, I will never portray myself as an expert in that realm. I understand you, Rose, because I will say transparently for everybody's benefit that also my mother was prescribed Valium in the 1970s. It was a common drug for women who were like anxious and depressed and stuff like that. And
What's
there
it
was
called?
a chap, Valium,
Valium.
Yeah, I know Valium.
VALIUM. And so with that said, there was a day, it was bad, March 15th, 1977, where my mother tried to commit suicide, just being honest, with her Valium prescription, and my dad rescued her. So that was a good thing. However, Rose, I want to say to you, I hear you, I feel you. First off, you are not alone. Your situation, you could have 25 siblings and be the person that is nominated, and that is always unfortunate. Yeah. So my heart goes out to you, and I know we say it approximately 1 billion times, Dave or Adrienne or myself or others in this space, where we would say, yeah, but what are you doing for you? And even if you can't get out, there still doesn't mean that there might not be a 5 minutes. And we'll just back it right down to breathing. Do you have time to take in, like, to a count of 3? In, hold, out. Like maybe repeated 3 or 4 times, multiple times a day, because to get through my worst days, I had to do that approximately 1,364,782 times, or thereabouts. And so I'm just saying, what can you do that is to calm yourself without having to rely upon the drugs?
Well, there's breathing, which is very important, and then you breathe into, if you have the time, you breathe into a meditation, and if you don't have the wherewithal to do it on your own, then you get a guided meditation, and you have those people say, breathe in, breathe out, and then visualize this, and they'll get you out of yourself a little bit and relax.
Yeah, she says she feels so alone. She's 50 years old and divorced, and her sister is her life. And, you know, talking about isolation here, I say when I speak a lot that, you know, your friends don't come by anymore. They don't call anymore. And I realize a lot of it, not always, but a lot of it in the beginning, it was my fault, because when they would come around, what would I do? What would I say? I would complain about my loved one. I would complain about my circumstances, and I would make them feel uncomfortable. And I'm not aware, I'm just venting, you know. And who wants to hang around with Debbie Downer, you know? That's why you need a support group. That's where you're supposed to dump on people and complain, and because that's what they're there for. Then they'll complain on you, and then you say, hey, you know, I don't have it so bad after all. But your friends, you got to protect those relationships, or they're not going to stick around. You got to do fun things with them. Go to the movies, you know, go have your do your nails together. Just do the fun things that you used to do, because that's why they were your friend, because you were the life of the party. You were a fun person. You were a cool person to be around. Now you're just like a bummer. And I know that sounds maybe a little harsh, but you just have to wear 2 hats. You want to wear your friend hat and just act like everything's fine. And if everything's not fine, then go see the support group first and vent and vomit and get all that off your chest. So now you feel a little, you know, refreshed, rejuvenated, and say, hey, let me go have a good time with my friend. Let's go to dinner. Let's go to a movie or something. If you can find a babysitter. One of those 11 siblings, I'm sorry, has got to come in for 2 hours and say, hey,
yes,
I will pay you. If, you know, everybody needs something. If they need money or barter back and forth, I'll give you a back massage, whatever it is, come in so I can go to the movies with my friend, or I'm going to go crazy, and then you're going to be the new caregiver. Hello?
How do the siblings live close to her?
I don't know, Rose, where do they live?
Rose, do they live close to you?
And she says to you she doesn't know how to meditate. So
Well, guided
YouTube,
meditation,
right?
Yeah, just
you can learn
YouTube,
everything on YouTube,
Apple,
kiddo.
iTunes. There's all sorts of guided meditations out there. Simple ones, short ones, long ones to help you sleep, ones to just relieve in the middle of the day. I mean, they help me a lot.
Sounds like you've been a caregiver for a while, Rose. I'm surprised that you haven't, figured some of this out or sought help, online. But better late than never. It was everything I can say is it's never too late to get better. And I know 50 might seem like, oh, my life is going by. I'm in this caregiver prison. I'm never going to get paroled. And, don't have that attitude because, it can, caregiving is what you make it. If you want to feel like you're in prison and feel sorry for yourself and poor me, you're on your pity potty, then guess what? That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you want to turn it into something different, I like to use Fred Astaire. He did this skit where he had to sweep the stage after his show, and it was funny because sweeping sucks, right? But he turned it into fun. He pretended that broom was Ginger Rogers, and he was dancing with it. And the boy who's shoveling out the horse manure in the barn, he figured there's a pony under there somewhere. I'm going to find it, So its attitude is so much. You got anything to say about that, Carol Ann?
Absolutely. People often approach me and say, well, what do I do about this, that, or the other thing? And the things will always be a practical question, like how do I get mom or dad into a retirement facility? And what I discovered is that the mindset or the attitude is actually everything. Other things can be figured out on a practical level, but if we use just to build on what you were saying, Dave, our 70,000 some thoughts per day, and most of those are about how horrendous the caregiving journey is, which I did that too. Then it will be an horrendous journey. Now, mind you, I want to add a few things about friends, and I want to say, there are also different types of friends. And my friends were part of my support network, but I knew the right type of friend to reach out to for what. Because some people are really great about bringing by a casserole, Others are really good at listening. Others are really good at, say, writing a card and cheering up your mailbox. So who to reach out to for what? But also an exercise that ironically comes from my corporate life, where a colleague used to drive me home from work, and we had a horrendous boss at the time. And so we used to play a game driving home. And we said, okay, can you even believe what she did today? And we made it a game into what are 5 things for which we are grateful that were born of the worst thing she did that particular day. We transformed it from a negative into a positive. And I can say I maintain a gratitude journal even beyond my caregiving marathon. To this day, I've been doing so for 20 years because I will admit, I can orient like anybody else toward the negative, find all the things that are wrong. I do that really well. And so my journal takes a couple of minutes just to find the peace or gladness in a sunset. And I know it must sound very trite when you're in the middle of all of the nightmare. I can say that was a practice that really helped shift my mindset.
Well, for me, on my website, one of the things I do is I really do encourage people to journal. And I've said this before on this show. If you just want to use it to complain, get it out.
Okay.
Just don't just keep it in. Even if there's no one listening to you, the page listens. And it frees you up from some of these really heavy emotions that you might be feeling. And even if it's only temporary, at least it's an outlet. If no one's there to listen to you, journal.
Yeah, it's similar to being seasick on a boat. you start turning green. You start feeling like I want to die. I mean, you really want to die when you're seasick. But once you throw up, once you vomit, you feel so much better.
Yep.
And it's that way with caregivers, too. Keep it inside. You're going to be sick for a long time. She says the hardest thing for her is separating the real age of her sister, 56, and her mental age of 13. Of course, that's the rough part. And those thoughts are just sometimes negative thoughts, but they're not all the time, so that's good. Well, listen, we need to take another break, and I appreciate, Rose, you sharing with us. So we'll be right back, so don't go away. Dave Nassasney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today, or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere, and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're back with Carol Ann Hamilton and Ardienne Gruberg, and me, Dave Nassasney. I'm your host, Caregiver Dave. And you speak about something near and dear to my heart, but I had certainly my mother had an automobile accident when she was too old, in her 80s, and it was always scary to drive with her. I never wanted to drive with her. And so that, number one, that would be a clue that maybe it's time to take away the keys. But, that's all she had, her independence, and I just hated to do it. But when you wait too long, guess what happens? They get into an automobile accident, and she later confessed, after she voluntarily gave up her keys, she goes, I don't think I should be driving anymore. And it's great. But then she later, a few days later, says, I think I might have confused the gas pedal with the brake. I says, well, then you're very smart to give them up. A few months later, she changed her mind. I think I need to be driving again. I said, no, it's too late. The car's gone, totaled. But tell us how you took away your car keys from your boastful 88-year-old dad that you nicknamed Bill the truck driver.
Because that was his name. And he was a truck driver. The Uber story amongst friends and family alike, if they were on with us, they would all go, oh my God, we have heard the story about Bill the truck driver a million times. So what happened was he used to drive trucks during the summers to earn extra money as a teacher, and he would drive engine mounts for the Lancaster bomber during World War II into a local Ontario factory. And if he was with us right now, which he sort of is, we could turn to him and say, yeah, and I won the war single-handedly by doing that. Okay, so try to get that kind of dad after he fails for the first time to pass at 88 his only written rules of the road test, and all that was required at that age was to do a multiple choice and to attend a safety lecture. And he actually wrote a questionnaire for the Ministry of Transportation up here, where he was trying to teach them how to follow proper procedures based on his truck driving days. So my husband and I thought, oh my God, when he did not pass, did he get kicked out of class like a principal? He was just stubborn enough to do it. But anyway, there were, like you, Dave, mounting incidents. Picture this. Think about this.
That we choose to ignore, by the way, because we don't want confrontation.
Yes, well, I heard them, but I didn't do anything about them. Okay, so picture them at the local mall. And cars but they are bumping into him. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're bumping into him.
Right.
This is his version, you mean?
Yeah, or picture, because I'm actually not a driver.
Really?
But I know enough about driving, because I was turned off the subject because he was so boastful. Anyways, that's another story. Where we
so
were
no one will have to take away your car keys. That's good.
No, you don't got to do with that. But either way, we're backing out of his garage. I know enough. Okay, I know what a gas pedal is, and I know what a brake is. And he mistakenly pressed the gas out, and we careened into the bottom of the neighbor's driveway before he used his skills to shut off the motor. That stunned him. And it was the basis for slowly then shipping away. So when automobile insurance renewals came through and, yeah, Bill, have your car come in for servicing and all this kind of thing, I started to say to him, you know, I'd hate to see more of those cars back into your precious 1987 Cutlass and 1995 Roadmaster. How about we start to think about some other ways how we could maybe get around? I'm still willing to come up and take you grocery shopping and do all that stuff together and boil your eggs, because he didn't even know how to do that. Yeah, we're not kidding. So he said, well, we tried it a little bit and it started to work, but like your story too, Dave, where he would try to float these trial balloons. Hey, but maybe I should just take the car for a spin around the block. What do you think? And I kind of defrayed him. And I said, well, you could, but I just wouldn't like somebody to bump into you or do something to the car. Yeah. And my really good strategy was to go behind his back. Did I just say that on air in front of millions of people? Yes, I did. And what I did was I called his insurance carrier because I knew who they were. Now, mind you, I did not prevail with them, but it was kind of a good thing because I asked, what's the cost of renewal? What are the practicalities? What are the implications if he renews, if he doesn't renew? And of course, if he doesn't renew and he kills somebody, that is very bad. But by that time, we had also started to chip away on joint account banking. Mm-hmm. That was a nightmare.
Oh,
we needed to think about that one. And, and setting up some legal matters to make sure that I could operate on his behalf as a power of attorney. So I had the wherewithal to also call the dealership, local and headquarters, to say, could you also please stop sending him announcements to get the car serviced or to, hey, Bill, why did you come in and purchase a new vehicle? We're only too happy to have you do that. And that was actually successful. So I am recommending to anybody out there that has a parent reluctant to stop driving, what you can do, even unbeknownst to them, to sort of protect them from themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's so many other things you can do like that. Like, for example, my mother-in-law was in her own home. We can't get her out. We couldn't get the doctor to diagnose dementia because of new legal laws and stuff like that. And everyone 5 times a day are breaking into her house, and she's changed the locks I don't know how many times. They're stealing her food. They're stealing her money. They're stealing her purse, her jewelry, her thimbles, you name it. And so when it's, of course she won't leave, so then you got to, like you said, well, this place is not safe for you anymore. I fear for your life because so many people are breaking in. We've got to get you out of here. And that can work. And it did work. She's in a nursing home now.
Exactly.
Oh, yes?
Yes, but it had nothing to do with what I just said.
Oh.
She was feeling short of breath. She pushed her little alert button. They took her away to the hospital. She was having a heart murmur or something.
Okay.
And from there, she was badly dehydrated, and she was just too weak to go back home, so we put her right into the nursing home from there. We tried that like a year ago, but the stupid doctor released her back to her home. Oh, my gosh. So it's done. She's there, and she's on hospice. We don't know how much longer she'll last because she's not getting any better. She's getting worse. So, but the nightmare is beginning to wind down. So thankful. But if that didn't work, that's what we were going to do.
Okay, but I wanted to comment on something Carol Ann said.
Yeah.
There are procedures in Canada. At least there are tests that seniors have to go through to see if they can still pass those tests. In America, you just go to renew your license.
Right.
There's never any question.
Carol Ann is in Canada. You know that.
I know. That's why I said. In Canada, those things that's in place. So you have some help from the government in introducing the issue. In the United States, Mom, no, I'm sorry, you can't. I'm sorry. I just remember what it was like.
It's horrendous, Adrienne. And so that's what actually caused me to write a second book on what I call Coping with Uncopable Systems, which is all the systems of society that claim to support aging populations but are nowhere to be found when you need them the most, right? Or often is the case.
Well, we have about 8 minutes to go. Time flies when we're having fun, so let's spend about 4 minutes on the next two questions. What are your top 2 to 3 tips to help stressed out sandwich generation members survive the Eldercare Marathon? And then after you can kind of glide into the talking about your unique advocacy model, caregiving in corporate America, dealing with parental hoarders. Wow.
Well, so that's a lot, but we can do it. And, if I only had time for one tip, it would be Q-tip. And I know everybody is thinking right now, this is a device to clean ears. How does that have anything to do with caregiving? And it stands for me of quit taking it personally. Remember how I said you can tell an unculpable because they won't have anything to do with your knowing the best for them. And there's this way that we as adult children can get so terribly opinionated about what they need to do because we can see it, driving or otherwise. And we fail to witness that what is really going on, like with the driving subject, that they are fearing the loss of their independence.
Right.
The kind of waning, the passing is at their doorstep. And they're thinking to themselves, my gosh, I have been such a vital person in life. I have accomplished this much, and now my world is narrowing, and everybody is just trying to get me to squeeze it some more. And so you get acting up, as we might define it, as their children. But actually, it's the fear. It's the loss of independence, the fear of the unknown. And if we can remember that, along with also the second half, which is really to balance in there our own care. Again, Dave, you're the one who said it when we talked a few weeks ago. I forget your statistic. I always go by mine, which
30%
is like
die, 60% get sicker.
Thank you.
Need a caregiver themselves.
Thank you. 63% of caregivers have a higher, they have a 63% higher mortality rate than those who don't carry those burdens. And so I know you're saying to yourself, listening like Rose or whatever, I don't have 5 minutes today.
You better take it.
Do you have 5 minutes to pass away?
Or to breathe.
Or to breathe, or do something, right? So really that self-care, however you define it, read one article in a magazine, I don't know. I would say that is so very vital, and how that translates into the corporate arena, which I do talk about. My advocacy model is different than how healthcare systems necessarily use it, but it is to get corporate America, whether you're speaking in the United States or Canada, to wake up and smell the coffee of a growing, a burgeoning aging population where you have employees, often like me, I'm an entrepreneur, but often like me, who are in the sandwich generation. They have aging parents, they have growing families of their own. They're trying to balance all of it. And frankly, I find the models of how people are supported, never mind for maternity leaves or paternity leaves, but what's being done for caregiving leaves. that's what I meant by we've got to advocate also on these kinds of platforms for the workplace.
Yes, we do.
Real quickly, tell us about your book. What's it about and how we can get it?
Well, you can find me most easily at carolannhamilton.com. There you will find copingwithuncopablparents.com, because that is actually the name of my first of 2 books. The subtitle of that first book is Loving Action for Elder Care. So it's a combination of 12 keys to success.
12-step program, huh?
Mindsets plus actions to create working with aging parents. Copingwithuncopablparents.com.
Wow. Ardienne, how do we get a hold of you if somebody wants to learn more about the caregiver space and all of the small groups you have?
It's Ardienne. If you want to email me, it's Ardienne, ADRIENNE at thecaregiverspace.org. And once the site's thecaregiverspace.org, once you're there, you can get to all the other platforms.
Yeah. And again, a reminder, all of our live shows become recorded podcasts and videocasts on our membership website, caregiverdave.com. Please join, and there's a tremendous value there to help you stay alive and burnout free with coaching and accountability. I always like to say I used to coach free all the time, and it was so hard getting free coaching people to, number one, show up to the call, because something more important always comes in its way. You know, the urgent takes precedent over the important, as I like to say. And we just put value on things depending on how much skin we have in the game or what it cost us. I mean, think about it. If you have a doctor appointment at 8 in the morning, you get to bed late, you're tired, the alarm rings at 7, you roll over and say, I'm not going to the doctor today. I can't even get out of bed. But I tell you what, if you had to pay $100 for that appointment, whether you showed up or not, you'd be there. And so $97 isn't a lot to ask for a caregiver to value their life and to value their health. And I got news for you. Our website used to be free, but now I'm not doing anybody any favors by not making them invest in themselves. Because you know what? If they spend $97 on a membership website, they're going to go there more than if the site was free, in my opinion. Now, not everyone would agree with me, but that's just my model, and I choose to. I'm trying everything to help caregivers. Like you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. Well, that didn't work. Let me try this. Well, that didn't work. Let me try this. I mean, it's like, and I know you're pulling your hair out as well, Ardienne, just trying to figure out how can we do this better. You've changed your website so many times, and I know you're just trying. Well, maybe if it was easier to navigate, caregivers would take advantage of this. But the bottom line is, you got to have a value. You got to have a high worth value of yourself, because what does the Bible say? Love others the way you love yourself. My God, if you don't even love yourself, how are you going to love others? So that's all I'm going to say. Get off my soapbox. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Carol Ann, you are amazing, and I thank you so much for coming in and taking your valuable time to join us and to help others. And I'm just so grateful for all of you. And for those caregivers, we're going to be, this has been recorded, so tune in if you miss some of it or all of it. Share it with a friend, because you'd be sharing life. You just might be saving their life. If 30% of caregivers die before their loved ones do, you just might be saving their life. So until next week, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program with Dave Nassasney.